I'm joined by Seth Frantzman, Executive Director of MECRA, the Middle East Center for Reporting and Analysis, who's focusing his neighborhood watch on that ISIS attack in Manbij and other areas where U.S. and allied coalition forces present soft targets. Seth, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So how in the world was ISIS able to kill many, including 4 Americans, one of which was a Green Beret?
That's right. I mean, I think that's the real question we have to ask is, how is it that ISIS all of a sudden, despite supposedly being defeated, is able to penetrate what seems to have been kind of a high-level meeting with not just this Navy SEAL and a member of the Defense Department, but also a
Navy SEAL or a Green Beret?
I think a Navy SEAL.
Okay.
But I think also a woman who's a cryptological technician, which is sort of a code word for NSA type of stuff, and a translator. Obviously, something important was going on there. ISIS seems to have known about it. ISIS got in there, blew up the restaurant, killed all these people. These are the most number of American casualties on any given day of the entire Syria conflict. So I think
devastating, actionable intelligence on their part.
It's very bad, exactly. And I think we have to ask questions. How did ISIS, what's ISIS up to? What's the agenda? Why is this happening just as Trump's leaving? You know, what's really taking place here? I mean, ISIS is supposedly defeated, but obviously ISIS still has networks in all these places.
Right.
And it's part of a series of other smaller attacks against the coalition or against the SDF, which are taking place. So
Trump and Secretary of State Pompeo has said that 99% of ISIS forces have been vanquished. That doesn't mean much, does it?
Well, I think in the conventional war, it's accurate. 99% of them are vanquished or whatever. All this land area has been taken back. But remember, I mean, Al-Qaeda or whatever in Iraq never had to hold a whole bunch of land, but it was still a very deadly organization. So I think, okay, so ISIS is transferring back into something like a insurgent or terrorist organization, which is what it was anyway.
Right.
But I think the real question is, okay, so that obviously looms over what's going to happen to Syria once the U.S. withdraws.
Now, you have some exclusive information on that part of eastern Syria on the border of Iraq that is ISIS's last stronghold, if you will?
Right. In the last few days, around 2,000 people, which is a lot, have fled these last 2 or 3 villages that are held by ISIS. It's a pretty small area, including what is estimated to be hundreds of suspected ISIS fighters and their families. What's interesting is we had a guy there who was able to take pictures of the people that are fleeing and also see how is the SDF, which is the U.S. partners on the ground, how are they processing these people? How do you know if a guy was in ISIS? You know, how do you know if a woman, for instance, most of the women are totally covered? So they're fingerprinting them, which I think is a very interesting and good thing. They're taking some of the suspected commanders to another place to do another layer of interrogations.
Okay, so
apparently
pretty thorough vetting.
That's right. Apparently the FBI is involved somewhere along the line. But this points to, of course, a lack of transparency about what's really going on in Syria. I mean, the fact is that there's something like 3,000 detainees who are ISIS plus their families in Syria. Now, these are going to add another few hundred to them, right? I mean, and some of these are foreign fighters, right? Irish, British, French, Americans. You know, these are dangerous individuals. And where is the foreign governments, the U.S. and Europe, to talk about what's going to happen with these people?
And that's even before the vacuum that will emerge as a result of the U.S. withdrawal.
Right.
And we can't forget that the mission is not only to defeat ISIS, but to prevent its resurgence.
Right. I mean, you can't just defeat something on a battlefield, right, and then let go all the people, thousands of war criminals, and say, okay, well, go back into your populations and do what you want. I mean, it doesn't seem that the mission is really over. So it's not really clear then, okay, it doesn't seem that anyone's talking about what comes next. I mean, we understand the Americans want to leave Syria. We understand that the 74 other nations in the coalition don't want to go in and take care of it. Everyone has fatigue from fighting endless wars. It's totally understandable. But these are dangerous individuals, and someone has to take responsibility for having war crimes trials or investigations and not just kind of dump them back into the population.